When you start living with the end in mind, everything starts to change. What are people going to say about you? What message is your life going to speak when you're long gone? Because you weren't born by accident. You didn't just happen to be where you're at and happen to watch this video. There is always a reason. Well, give it a bit longer as people jump on. I'm here with my COVID uniform hat, hiding the hair that's growing like a bush. We're excited, man. I'm excited. Are you excited?
Excited. So excited.
You have to speak a bit louder, probably.
Oh, can you hear me?
Can you hear Kirsten? You gotta be a bit louder, I think.
Okay.
Boom. All right, we got some people on here. What's up? What's up? Brooke Rose, what's up? I'm just checking comments on here because the computer is a little bit further out. Nice to meet your queen. Yes, this is my queen. God totally set this up. This was never the plan. When we started, this was never the plan. Even I didn't realize I was coming close to episode 50. This was not the plan. And then just became the plan, huh?
Yeah, like this week.
Became the plan like 3 days ago.
Something like that.
And I think a while ago, Kirsten would have said no. But she said yes. So we're doing it.
What an honor. What an honor to be on your podcast, Annie.
All right. This is great. This is great because of many reasons. I'm going to touch on all of these, okay? But let's do the official intro for the audio. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the Fuse Life podcast, which is all based on God-given assignment. You were born with a purpose, for a purpose, on purpose. And here at Fuse Life, we fuse every area of life. There is no point being so spiritually strong, but so relationally weak that you can't hold on to your family. There is no point being amazing in one area of life and letting every other area pull you down. And so this has really been the message of my life, fusion, heaven on earth. And this is our podcast. And my guest tonight has been in my life for 13 years. 13 years. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But she has blown my mind for 13 years. And being married to her for 10, nearly 10 in November, that's even more something that blows my mind, because when you get married, you find out new things, as you married people know. And some surprises are like, I wish I didn't have that surprise. But it's kind of different here. Like, I've had surprises that have blown my mind. And so without any further ado, like, this is kind of weird doing this interview like this, but I want to welcome Kirsten Wilson. Welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for your time and for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
You might need to be a bit louder.
Oh, sorry. It's a pleasure.
So maybe you should tell people a little bit about you, or what you're doing right now in life.
Right now, I am. We have 3 little girls. Almost 5-year-old. She'll be 5 next month. A 2.5-year-old and a 12-week-old today. 12-week-old today. And yeah, so I am mum to them, which I totally love. Super special being able to hang out and see them grow, and just all the fun that comes with it and all the challenges that come with it too. And I am wife to you. And I just do that at home. Yeah, cook, clean. We have a gathering that we run. Well, I do more mumming at the moment, but one day I'll be. What else do you want to know? That's kind of...
We're going to talk about all this stuff, okay? Because we haven't planned or rehearsed anything. I hope you know that. Like, we're not coming here with a script, okay? Like,
that would have been a clever idea, though.
She probably doesn't even know questions I'm going to ask. And we are where we are, and we're growing every day. And that's something you have to embrace. A lot of people don't embrace that. Like, you know, we're not at some great level or something. We're just having a conversation. So, Kirsten, tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
So I am one of 4 children. I am the second eldest, and I have an older sister and 2 younger brothers. We grew up, well, I was born in Auckland, New Zealand here, and then when I was 2, we moved to Papua New Guinea and lived there for, I think, 3 years until I was about 5 or 6. My mum and dad were missionary doctors over there in a really remote jungle part of Papua New Guinea, which was an amazing experience to have growing up. And I think, like, the older I get, the more I value that experience of cross-cultural living and just seeing the world in a totally different way. So I think that kind of was quite formative in who I am as a person. Then, when I was about 6, we moved back to New Zealand. It wasn't the plan to stay in New Zealand then. That was just going to be like a sabbatical, 3 months or something, and then go back to Papua New Guinea. And the plan was always to live there long term, but that didn't work out for some reasons. And so we were back in New Zealand, and then I was in Auckland until my second year of intermediate, and then I moved with mum and dad up to Northland to be closer to my dad's parents, so my grandparents. And so I spent my high schooling in Dargaville in the rural setting, which was new to me. And 5,000
people.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, the school had 300, no, 500 or 600 actually. So there was enough people at school to find some friends. So that was nice. And then came down to Auckland, study at uni. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Turns out God had other plans, so that was interesting. And I've been in Auckland ever since. Met an amazing hunky hubby at uni. Got married. Had some babies. That's my life. Pretty much sums it up.
So it's interesting. Maybe we have. This is the weirdest podcast because I have no.
I don't have anything like standoutish to talk about. Like, I'm not an expert in anything or anything, so it's just my life.
But that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because like that's not a good thing to probably think, because like a lot of people think that there has to be some great standout thing. Let's talk about that a little bit. But before that, maybe we should say how we met. So what was it like when you met me? Let's hear your side of the story.
Okay, so I went to university initially to study medicine. So I did my pre-med year, and then at the end of that, I didn't get into med school. So I was like, okay. I was a bit gutted, well, quite gutted for about a day. And then I was like, well, God must have some other plans. So then I was like...
Gutted means disappointed for people that don't speak that language.
Sorry, yeah. I was a bit upset. I was quite upset for the day. And then, but then pretty soon, like I think God had, it was almost supernatural how fast it was like, okay, well, that's not it then. So God must have something else in store. And so then I applied to both nursing school and sport and exercise science, thinking, and I ended up choosing sport and exercise science, thinking that I would like to be majoring with psychology. A psychologist who helps rehabilitate troubled youth using sport and games and that type of thing. So I thought, that would be a cool thing to do. So went on down that path, and then I was a bit of a loner. Is loner a generic term? No, I was alone. Didn't have any friends because I hadn't done that first part of the initial year. And so I'd sit by myself in class, and that was fine with me. I didn't really mind because I'm a study hard geek. Anyway, so when I met Joey, we were in uni lectures, and the lecturer was like, okay guys, let's make a group and we're going to discuss something in sports science. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm not sitting next to anybody, so it'll be a bit tricky to make a group. And then in front of me, this guy turns around and he's like, would you like to join our group? And I was like, sure. So that was that. Then we were friends after that. We had our group discussion, and then we kind of sat together and just became friends. It was nice.
Yeah, that was really interesting because what happened was, I'm getting distracted by all your comments, man. Your comments are going crazy. What happened was I joined uni and I did commerce and accounting, and I was just wasting time, wasted money. I never studied. And then I realized I had to switch degrees. So I switched halfway through the second year, and she happened to switch halfway through the second year at the same time, and we met at that class.
Yeah.
And I randomly turned around and said hello to her. That's how it all began.
Yeah.
And and then we were friends, and she was wooing me. She will tell you she wasn't wooing me. She will say I was wooing her, but we know the truth.
We were friends for ages, eh, honey?
Yeah, we were friends for a long time.
And we would study together, and I would study and make copies of my notes, and Joey would take my notes and then do really well in his exams.
Yeah, so I'm like exams are the day after tomorrow, let us study and get a C or a B. She's like the exams are next year, we should study now and do notes, and then do notes of notes, and then notes of notes of notes.
Three notes was my way of doing it.
3 notes, not even joking. So I took one of those notes and I used to study from those notes, and that's how I passed. And I always thought, man, whoever marries her, like it was her, me, and another friend, Zahi, and 3 of us were good friends. And me and Zahi would always think like whoever marries her, like she's, like wife material, And I was messed up at that time. My thinking was messed up. I was unsaved. And we would be like, if anybody marries her, we would screen this guy, He'd have to be worthy of her. We always thought that because we're all good friends. And so while that was going on, look at these comments, clever move, bro. There was actually nothing like that at that time. In fact, I had another girlfriend at that time. And I was messed up at that time. I was different. I was very different. You wouldn't believe it. So yeah, just do you want to carry on that story? Like, how did we end up?
Yeah, so we studied together, and Joey finished uni a year ahead of me, eh? He ended up finishing.
Maybe, yeah.
Because anyway, so a year ahead. And then we stayed in touch, and we'd catch up every now and then, like after work.
But I mean, all this becomes irrelevant. Maybe you want to say about how you thought I should be.
Oh, yeah.
Sound better coming from you.
So, something from me. Joey was into what is it called? Network marketing, a network marketing company. And he was really, really into this network marketing company. And so we would catch up for a lunch break or whatever while we were still at uni. And he would proceed to tell me all these amazing reasons about why I should join this. And I kid you not, I remember one time we were sitting in Albert Park underneath a tree, and it was like a 2.5 hour long conversation about all this great, amazing stuff and how you should really get into it, and sales is the way to go, and it's, it's going to be so good for everyone, woof, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And I liked him, we were friends. I liked him as a friend. And he thinks that I liked him a little bit. And maybe I did. Probably I did, actually. So we would chat and hang out, and I would, and then, can I say, he would go out on the weekends and go partying and be out till crazy hours in the morning, and he would send me these random ass messages off random numbers, like other people's phones. So he knew my number off by heart and would message me just saying weird stuff when he was drunk.
Wow. It's going there.
And I would pray. I'd get these messages and I'd be like, oh no, is everything okay? Wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something and be like, okay, God. And my prayer was, God, I pray that he will become as passionate about you as he is about this network marketing company. And so that was my prayer. And I would pray that, I don't know how long actually, but yeah. And then it's like God hears our prayers and he listens, and now I have a hubby that's more passionate about God than anything in the world. So you got to hear both sides, right? So while this is going on, I was the kind of guy that never had credit on his phone. Back then, it was all data. So I'd use other people's phones to message people, and I would memorize numbers
especially the numbers I repeatedly message. And so I memorized her number and I would text her sometimes without remembering. I wouldn't remember. She would remind me sometimes. But on my 21st birthday, it was such a crazy party, and she never goes to parties, but she came to my 21st birthday. Why did you come?
Because I thought I would be letting you down if I didn't come.
Do you buy that? Do you buy that?
Yeah, because you're like, come, it will be great. And I was like...
There was like 150 others.
And you wouldn't have even known if I didn't come, is the truth.
But she came.
But I came because I told you that I'd come, and I wanted to keep my word.
Yeah, sure. So I'm saying that she was wooing me, man. IOU text. Seppi's got it. IOU text, man. I remember that. 798. So those were the days. But what happened was she prayed all the stuff. I didn't know she's praying the stuff. I had no interest to become some kind of Christian. And but then I had this radical encounter, and I almost became too crazy for her. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I became like Jesus, like everything. And so what was that like for you? Because at that time for you, it wasn't like this, right? It wasn't.
To be honest, at that time, I was going to a mega church in Auckland, and I think it wasn't the right place for me at that time. I stayed because my brother was involved there, and I wanted to be where he was. And I didn't really know where else to go or what to try or anything. But I was a little bit disillusioned with church anyway, not with God, just with the way that things were working. And then Joe was like, yeah, so he did this complete 180 and was, and this is a spirit-filled church, and there's all these things going on that I have no clue about. And he's like, come along, it'll be great. And I'm like, so I was raised as a Baptist, and when we went to church, there was like the one generally lady in the church, and she would like raise her hands and close her eyes, and I'm like, she's so weird. Like, why would you do that? But and then there was the people also that would dance and twirl at the back, and I remember thinking, that's so different. That's so strange.
She probably wasn't thinking different as the word.
Anyway, now I'm like, that's awesome. I love it. And I totally do that as well. But at the time, it was all just a bit new. And so Joey's like, come along to this church. This is happening, all this supernatural stuff. And he's like witnessing to all these people, and people are getting touched, and people are falling under the Spirit. And I'm like, this is demonic witchcraft. And I'm just like, ah. But yeah, so I came along to his church, and I came and I told one of the leaders there, I'm like, I'm just coming here to find out what you guys have got, because my friend is completely different now, and I need some of that to take back to my church so that I can help those people become like he is. And she's like, oh yeah, we hear that all the time. I'm like, you don't even believe me. That's my true intention. So anyway, yeah, so I came and I never left either, and God started doing so much amazing stuff. And like, I think probably one of the biggest things for me was your testimony, like just watching. And I'm so thankful that God arranged it, that I knew you before all of that happened, because I could see the change, and I could see the authenticity, and just the transformation. And yeah, so it was. And then because you were so hungry and so on fire, Joey would kind of pave the way. And then if I had questions and crazy stuff that was happening for me, then I could go to him and be like, what do you reckon's going on here? And so that was awesome. Yeah.
This comment thread is the craziest comment thread I've ever had on any podcast. Like, it's so distracting because it's so, what's the word? Entertaining. I'm just letting the people who are just going to hear the audio understand this. But, for me, when I got on fire, I was like, oh, man, she's not like this. Like, her version is missing something.
Yeah.
So when she came to church and she went through all the same things I went through, which was like, man, these guys are crazy. Why are they so happy? Why are they dancing? Then she started plugging in. And I remember one day I was walking out of church with a mentor of mine at that time, and we looked down at the ground, and Kirsten was on the corner, on the floor. She was on the floor rolling left and right and laughing, and she was like totally in the joy. And, you know, we both were like, oh, she's getting it. Like something's happened. She's, you know, there's an encounter, and she'd get touched by Holy Spirit and do some funny things sometimes, like sound like a bird while prophesying over people. And it was amazing. Like, and I believe that had to happen for us to be married, you know, like we had like maybe a 1 year period. Would it be one and a half? Somewhere like that, where, you know, I was like, I don't want a girlfriend again or at all. Like the next person I am with will be my wife. So we backed off each other, and God spoke to her about me and spoke to me about her and confirmed that. And then that's how we got married. And we got thousands of stories, like God stories of this whole thing, right? But maybe we keep moving on.
Sure.
Do we keep moving on? If you got questions, hit us with the questions. So, okay, so then you get married, and then you're married. And so I was leading the youth at that time. So it's almost like you married into leading the youth.
Yeah, which was so cool. Like, I think, well, my heart has always been to help people, help youth. And that's why I studied at uni for that. And the youth, they're just so lovely. They're so, I think I wanted to be able to encourage and build up and help. And, you know, it's such a critical time when you're a teenager and you have all this pressure and other stuff going on, and even just family stuff where you just want someone to talk to and someone to be with. And so it was such a privilege to come on board as a youth leader and just hear their heart and, you know, want to love and nurture. And like the Friday night youth meetings were awesome, and catching up one-on-one, and, you know, just wanting to be Jesus. It felt like my way of giving back, I guess, and being able to impart what I was getting from God into someone else. So that was exciting. That was special.
So just before that, before we got married, you were working in, I don't know how do you call it, counseling, youth line. What do you call that? What's that? Like, what would you call that job?
Telephone counseling for kids and youth. Yeah. So I worked for probably all up about 4 years as a telephone counselor for people between the ages of 5 and 18. And so people would call up with whatever was going on. It was an anonymous thing, anonymous service. And if they wanted to chat, we'd be there. And I went through some training for that. And then I had my psych degree as well. So, and that was like, I really enjoyed doing that. That was satisfying. It was hard work though. It was some days where there was just testing calls, which is just kids calling up to be silly, to annoy the counsellor, which I can totally understand. Like, but when you have 5 hours of a shift of that, it's draining. But then you have some amazing times where you can connect with the same caller over and over again, and you can actually help them and see their, see their life start to change and move direction. And so, yeah, that was really rewarding as well.
Cool. Okay, so then you got married, we got married, and we moved in here. I mean, so many cool stories in there. Maybe one day we'll start unpacking some of them. But even the wedding day, the date, everything, like God just marked it. But let's talk about after getting married, and now we're getting into some thicker stuff, guys. So be ready. You know, we get married, we're going to church. So at that time, for me, my life looked like this, okay? Monday night was prayer night at our church. Tuesday night, I'm discipling somebody, helping somebody. Wednesday night was home group. Thursday night was worship practice. Friday night was youth group. Saturday was maybe time with us, just us.
Or a social event.
And Sunday was service in the morning and service in the evening. Right. And at the beginning, the people that I was walking with and helping would ring and call and text at any time. And what was that like for you? Because I remember the first time, like there was a time where Kirsten was like, oh my gosh, like, do these guys always message you? Like, you know, because we're integrating a new life. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? What was that like?
Yeah, I felt, and these are people that Joey's like discipling and helping. And so discipleship is really in I think your model of discipleship is true discipleship, where people are really in your world. So anytime anything happens, you're there and available for them. And I didn't quite have that same concept for myself. I think I was, with the people that I was helping, that was a bit more on my terms then, whereas Joe would always be there. And yeah, so I felt like there should be some, no, stop now, turn off your phone, you're not allowed to talk to anybody else now. You've had enough time with the phone. And the other thing was that Joe was working nights, evenings, because
I was doing sales, door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
So my work would start at 4 o'clock, 3:30, and finish at 9:30, 10.
Yeah, so we'd normally have dinner at like 10 o'clock. There was a season where we'd have dinner every night about 10 o'clock. It was an adjustment. And the other thing that for me, food hasn't been such a big part as for you.
Okay. We're just switching subjects now.
No. Okay, we'll go back to that subject.
No. That's good. Go for it. This is your podcast.
I don't know.
No. Go for it. Talk about it. Which story are we going to talk about?
Because you were talking about early marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So early marriage, I didn't realize the importance of having a proper meal, and I was like, toast cuts it for me for dinner. Toast does not cut it. Toast is not an appropriate meal for husbands, especially if they've been at work all day.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Yeah, for most people. In fact, it's probably not for me anymore either. But anyway, so that was a learning curve of what love looks like in terms of giving appropriate thought to meal planning and preparation. That was one of my closest to heart steep learning curves, was just and that probably comes down to thinking of you more than thinking of myself. That was a good lesson to learn early on.
I'm finding this podcast challenging because I'm trying to make it about your story, but then it becomes about our story, doesn't it?
It is our story because we are together.
So it was really interesting because these are two cultures coming together, right? Indian culture, European culture are so different. They're so different. So all the way through, even leading up to the marriage, right? For an Indian family, food, it's a big deal. When you cook food in an Indian family, there's always leftovers. There's always food for everybody. But in European culture, it's usually what do we need for tonight, right? Not really anything else. I'll tell you why I say this. When I first came here, I went to my friend's house, this Kiwi friend. I made a Kiwi friend. This 1998. He'd come to my house and eat curry and stuff. Hey, if you're watching, you know who you are. And I would go to his house. One day we were playing, and then it was dinner time. And then he's like, "Mom, can Joseph be over here for dinner?" And then Mom was like, "Oh, we don't have food." And I was like I thought I came from India to a wealthy country. What do you mean you don't have food, right? This is going through my head. And then I walk in through the kitchen, through the dining table, and there's 6 plates set up, 5 plates set up, just exact amount of food, and maybe there's leftovers for one person. And I remember at that time, my mind was what? Are you struggling? What happened to the food? And that was the beginning of me learning the difference in the culture. So when we got married, culture is different, and we've had to integrate, but it's been fun. When you asked this question about integrating the culture, it's been awesome. In many ways, it has not, would you say I don't know if we've had rough anything.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe some scary parts.
Maybe I'd lock them out.
No, when you first come to an Indian house and on the dining table, everybody's talking. Do you want to speak about that?
So when I was growing up, we had like a one person talking at a time rule. So if one person's speaking, then everybody else at the table is listening, whether you're involved in the conversation or not. Even if I was just speaking to one person at the table, everybody else didn't really share that much. And then we go to Joe's house and there's like 5 conversations flying around the room and one person's talking to 2 people at the same time. And I'm like, I don't know how to keep that. It's all just, it was crazy.
But you know, like that's collectivist culture.
And it's so special. Like I really come to, I love Indian culture. It's such a privilege to be a part of it and adapt my thoughts and feelings to learn more about it and to embrace it as something that I want for our girls as well. Like, so I think that's what we get to do. We get to choose which parts we like and which parts we don't of both cultures and create our own culture, our own family culture. So.
But I guess now we're getting into a subject that I think too many people major on this. It's fun, it's an amazing journey, but it's not the major. Like, so Kirsten's way of eating was, I'll just eat anything at any time, any amount, I'm good, you know? So I guess when we got married, to her it was like, well, he'll just eat anything at any time and it's good. But for me, like in my house, my sister's cooking or my mom's cooking, there's always food there. Like
properly, nicely, amazing cooked food.
Even today, I go home, I go straight to the fridge, open the fridge, and there's food. Like there is always, there is always food there. And so it was like, it's like you grow together. But too many people major on the outward stuff. It's actually not even about what you eat, how you eat, when you eat. It's none of that. Like that's just the easy outward stuff. It's the inward stuff, right? So, for example, like one of the things that happened, I came home after work one night and I thought maybe there'll be some food or, and this was the early days that she was trying to talk about, but she never said it. I came home and I don't remember how the conversation began.
This was like our first week after the honeymoon. Like we were really newlyweds.
And there was just no food. And I was super hungry. Like I'd been out at work, door knocking. Like it's not like you carry food or anything. So I come home thinking there'll be something. And I was like, oh, is there any food? Da, da, da. And then there was nothing. Was that right?
I think so.
I don't remember the whole story. Do you remember the whole story?
No, I don't actually. I just remember the emotion that went with it.
What emotion, Kirsten? What emotion?
So Joey's like, oh, okay. Okay. And then he left the house. And I'm like, no, there must have been something before that. Must have been like, oh. And I think then I felt bad that I hadn't cooked properly, if anything. And so I was like, oh no, do you want me to make you some toast?
We're laughing now, okay, because we just had an amazing meal tonight for dinner that Kirsten cooked. That's why we're laughing, okay, because it is funny to us. And I'm like, toast. Like in my head, right? I'm like, toast. And so I was like, I need to get out of here because, if I've got nothing good to say right now, I shouldn't say anything. So I was just like, look, I'm going to come back. And I got in the car and I drove home. And I'm
like, oh my gosh, he's leaving. That's it. He's left. We're getting a divorce. Our marriage is over. Oh my goodness, I didn't even last a week. What am I going to do? How do I fix this? Do I call him? No, he needs some time and space. I can't call him. I have to just wait here. I'll just wait. Maybe I should go to bed. No, because then I'll be asleep when he comes back and that would be terrible. If he's coming, is he coming back? I don't know. Just all these thoughts. It was in tears for a while. So
I didn't know that she's crying, right? I'm just driving because I'm like, God, what is this? Do I buy food? Like, am I wrong for wanting a meal? I'm going through all this stuff in my own head. Like, what's up, Joseph? What is this? Anyway, I deal with my stuff. I don't know if I bought food. Did I buy food?
You bought some food.
I bought some food. Did I buy you some food?
I don't know.
Oh, I started to learn the other thing. Husbands, you learn that. Like, the wife's like, oh, I'm not hungry. Don't worry. Then you come back with food. Then she's like, can I have a bite? Like, what is that? That looks kind of nice. Let's have a taste, And then suddenly, like, your food half is gone. Yeah, your husbands, you know what I'm saying. So I must have got her food. But I came back. And she's crying, and like for her, it was like, we're done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, like how did it get like that, And so this is like the beginning of how we had to learn how to communicate. Like every marriage, you have to learn how to communicate. And I think in the early days, communication for Kirsten was scary, right?
It was something I really struggled with, but I would have said that I was a good communicator before that. I think I struggled to be vulnerable and real in the moment. Like if I'm going to write you a letter and you're going to read it later without looking at me, then I can do that really well. Or if I'm going to write you a note or send you a message and then leave the house, then that's okay. But to actually have like a face-to-face conversation about what's on my heart right now, that's fresh and real, and that was so. I found that so intimidating, not because of you, just because of stuff that was in me where I was like, and so Joey came up with this really cool, really wise way of helping, where we'd sit down on the couch together, and instead of looking, like, because that was my problem, I didn't want to look him in the eye and talk directly. So we'd sit next to each other side by side, and then I'd like rest my head on his shoulder or on his chest, and then he would talk and ask questions, and I'd answer them looking forward but not at him, but still being like cocooned by him, like safe. So, and we would have quite a lot of conversations like that for the first while until I got used to until I got over my fears of talking, being real and talking. And I think that's still something that I'm really good at saying half of something and then not finishing it. So I apologize if that's the case. But this, I think talking or speaking words is something that I've grown up, and it's been a really important thing to say something, but only say it if you truly mean it, and don't say something that you'll have to take back or regret later. And so I try to choose my words quite carefully, and if I'm gonna, so I'd rather be quiet and not say anything, which then comes across as,
well, that can be good. That's really wise, but it's actually the number one killer for any deep relationship.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the balance. We should talk about this because you get taught this, like say what you mean. I don't know if you feel. I don't know if it's your hair. And there's another thing husbands would know, right?
There's some hair there.
Wives' hairs. Husband, do you know what I'm saying? You find the hair somewhere. Like this morning, I was walking out of my bed. Like I felt this hair, and I pull it out, and it's like this long blonde hair. I'm like. Anyway.
Love.
Anyway, look, we're just having a chat. Hopefully you're good. What were we talking about?
Communication.
Like they teach you, don't say it mean and mean what you say, and that's all great. But then what happens is people end up suppressing and shutting down, and then they never say. And then when you never say, you can't grow. So while there's wisdom in watching what you say, it can end up being the very thing that robs you of true intimacy in any relationship, because you're like, well, I can never say what I really feel. And there's all these people that don't even tell God what they really feel, because they're like, well, it doesn't sound that great, and you can't have deep intimacy without communication like that, right? So yeah, we went through that phase, and before I got married, I said to God, there's no way that I'm going to be a good husband, because I have no idea how to have a relationship, and I suck at communication. Like, how funny is this? I said to God, I suck at communication. And I was like, if you're getting me married, you are going to have to help me become a good communicator. And he totally came through for me for these 10 years. Like,
for both of us, because then you taught me also. Are teaching me also. I think I'm still learning how to communicate.
Yeah. I mean, this podcast is weird, but this is our story, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it's different,
Yeah.
Anyway, so we learned communication, and we didn't have a kid for 5 years. Yeah. Right? We made up our mind we weren't going to have children for 5 years, or well, at least 3 or 4 years. And a lot of people didn't believe us, but we didn't. And because we were building roots, we knew we had to build deep roots with each other. And we had a great time. 5 years just flew by, and it was awesome. So why don't you just talk a little bit about becoming a mum? Because you always felt like being a mum was like your dream, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I think right through from high school, I really wanted to be a wife and a mum. I guess I like I have a really good relationship with my mum, and I learnt what I saw her do it and loved. I still love her to pieces, but I loved what it looked like for her, and that was my dream, to be a wife and a mum. So we 2015 we had our first little girl, and before we even got married, I think, we had talked about what might be the expectation around when we were to have children, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mum and not have to go back to work and not have to do the work-life, mum-life juggle. And that was something that was your heart as well, right from the start. So I was stoked that was a match like that.
Like, this is becoming so much about marriage here, but this is a good subject. Like, firstly, I had to be like, well, who am I? Where am I at? Okay, who is she? Where is she at? And it just, then we fit, you know? Like, if she was like, no, I want to be a career woman, our game plan would have to be different. And this is something you guys got to understand. Like, this is just our story. But, you know, I think sometimes people try and have other people's stories. Like, other people's stories are not fun. Your story is fun. You're going with your story is fun, right? Mm. So it was awesome for us that we got to talk, and she was like, oh, I want to be a mom. I want to be at home. And I was like, okay, cool. You do that, and I'll bring home the bacon. You know, like, I don't know. It just worked out that we were both in sync.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. So, so I stopped work and had a little newborn. I actually found it quite hard to start with struggles with feeding and sleeping, and now, so we've just had number 3 months ago or something, and it's so different this time around. We feel like we've learned something, at least, for number 1 and 2.
So just so you know, this podcast could end at any moment. Number 3 decides that she wants in.
Yeah. So I found that first bit challenging, but also so special and so rewarding. And I don't really know how to encapsulate being a mum. I think it's well. So now I'm almost 5 years in, and sometimes it's hard to know who I am without being a mum, who the woman is in me. And I don't, you don't have to have them separate, and like, I'm still totally a woman as a mum, but I think it can be easy to lose a part of you to being a mum, especially when you're with little, you know, preschool children, where you're always needed and wanted, and it's mum this, mum that, like, you can't get 5 minutes to go to the toilet by yourself. And that's the same, you know, for all people in my situation, I'm sure, where you're just tugged on the whole time. And I think, so my growth, I guess, or my challenge has been to figure out how much of that is how to deal with that, how to get some time for myself, which we've kind of got the hang of now. And so Joey will take the girls, and I'll have an hour or 2 hours to just do me stuff where I don't have to think about anything else. And it's so valuable because it kind of recharges me back up to be like, okay, now I can go back out and give more. Yeah. I don't know. I adore, like, I so love being a mum. It's exactly what I always dreamed it would be. And it's so special to watch these little people grow up and master challenges and learn to speak and learn to walk. And like, the older girls now, Zara and Adela, are like funny. And so they're so fun to hang out with. They do hilarious things, and they've got their own loves. And like, Adela at the moment is so into gymnastics, and so everything is about gymnastics. And then she's got these little friends who are imaginary, that she talks to, and they hold hands together like this and walk around the house, and like, it's hilarious. It's good fun. I could talk about that a lot, but maybe not.
Man, this is like, we're touching on so many subjects that we could camp on, you know, the importance of what's going on. You know, so for me, having kids was so different because we had kids, but then in the first year and a half, like, the baby doesn't necessarily see me as its parent. And dads might resonate with what I'm saying, but like my daughter for the first year and a half, 2 years, like I was in her life and I was entertainment, but if there was any need, it's always mom, right? And that only changes after like 2 years of being there. So it was an interesting journey for me, watching her have a baby. Like that was like crazy for me. Like it was like war zone. And I remember after our first baby, I was like, oh my gosh, like I had so much respect, but now I'm like even more crazy respect for what you just went through, you know. And I remember just being in awe. And like I'm a purpose guy, and I can tell you, like Kirsten's a gifted mom. Anyone that's seen her being a mom, and some women are like, till I experienced this, I don't know if I would have said they're gifted moms, like gifted moms. Like, she's a gifted mom, and yeah, you're amazing.
Hey guys, I just want to take a quick minute to tell you about our Royal Hybrids group coaching program. Over a year ago, the Lord started speaking to me about a group of people, a tribe that would only get their value, their affirmation, that would only get their identity from who they are in God and nothing else. And from that place, they were going to do great things on the earth. In the last year, we have seen a whole bunch of people jump into our program, solidify themselves in their identity with God, and from that place, actually start to engage their purpose. Fuse Life talks about the 6 trees: your spirit, your soul, your body, and then your relationships, your finances, and your purpose. We have seen a whole bunch of people come through this, get solidified in who they are, and then begin their own projects, whether it's a teen mums project, whether it's a coaching, counseling business, or a painting business, publishing your children's book, publishing a puzzle book. We have seen people do all of these kind of things, and we just know that this is just the beginning. So you want to go to www.fusebornformore.com/Royal Hybrids, or just click the link in the caption and make sure to check out what we are doing. We would love to have you as part of our tribe. Now, back to the podcast.
You know, and that's something that we talk about, is that, like, don't forget that you're a woman first, you know? You're a woman. And so some of you mums out there, like, you're a woman first. You're a wife second. You're a mum third. Like, and I'm not trying to prioritize them like that, but that's a fact. Like, you were born as a woman. And a lot of women leave themselves. They let go of that woman. Then they get married. They let go of that woman. After they get married, then they let go of that wife. And then it becomes mum, all encompassing. And it's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's just life happens like that. And as husbands, we need to be aware to help the mum realize that she's also a wife and woman, and she has enough time to embrace that. You know, when you go too long without letting the woman embrace that, it's easy for her to even forget. Right? Like somebody asked, what is the number one thing you miss after being a mum? Since being a mum? Going to the toilet?
I think I like just the freedom to do what I want when I want is that sometimes I miss that a lot. And like if I wanted to just go out and go for a run now, or just sit down on my bed and read a book for 20 minutes by myself, that it's just, you know, so that's why the time where it's my time, I can do those things in my time. But without having that, it's the freedom where it's like.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, even if I'm there and I'm like, hey kids, no, it's okay, I'm here, come. Like mama's just, you know, going for a little while. It's like, our mama, like, you know, like they love her and it's good, but so it's a challenge, right? Mm-hmm. And we're walking through it, man. We haven't perfected anything. We're just walking through the journey.
Yeah, finding what works. Okay, times.
Yeah. So I call Kirsten my rock of honey because she's someone I can always depend on. She's a rock. Like she is. My wife's tough, man. My wife's tough. Like she's gangster. But she's so soft. That's why. Soft and sweet. And that's why I call her a rock of honey. Somebody asked that question, so I'm answering that. She's my rock of honey, my voice of wisdom. Like, I believe that she's so discerning. She saves my butt many times. And God has specifically told me many times, cling to your wife, Joseph. Cling to Kirsten. And luckily, we don't mind clinging together, so we're good. Okay, so we've had these kids. Now let's talk a little bit about church stuff, right? So when you got married and pressure that you felt, like, because one of the things that I think is a problem with ministry is like they make it sound like one person in the marriage is in ministry. Like even just sometimes people use the term like the pastor's wife. Like we got to kill all that because there is no pastor's wife. There is pastorza, not pastor and his wife. Like we've created some weird things in ministry. And I guess Kirsten and I can talk about this because we're not affiliated to some traditional church. Like I am open for conversation. I'm open to be wrong. I'm open to totally be wrong, but I'm open for conversation and facilitate this conversation, you know? So there is no one man in the wife. Like it is joint. So can you talk about that a little bit? Because you felt pressure, right, at the beginning?
Yeah. I think I had all these ideals of what it means to be in leadership and just stuff in the back of my head where I'm like, oh, I should be reading X number of chapters a day and have, this much quiet time, and I should know God on a level where I can just all this weird stuff in my head where I was like, performance-based stuff. So I can tick Xbox that I've done this, tick this, and then I'm like, oh yeah, sweet. So now for today, I'm good as a leader. And I think I'm so thankful for you because you right from the start dismantled all of that stuff. And so every time that I would try and pick up that performance doctrine again, you're like helping me to dismantle it and just be like, my relationship with God doesn't change based on how much I read the Bible. Like he's not more happy with me on the days that I read 7 chapters than he is on the days that I read 7 verses. And truly knowing that is so freeing because it's like God is he doesn't have a big textbook where he's like marking off how much we do every day or anything like that. And I think while I wouldn't have said that was my thought, subconsciously it still was something that my behavior would confirm that I believe that, So I don't think I would have, So just being able to have a relationship with God from a place of freedom where it's like, if I want to hang out with God today, I can, and I can grow, and that I don't have to have a set time, even of quiet time, where it's like I can just talk to God throughout the day about anything that's going on and growing through changing through. Sorry, I'm saying 2 things at once and it's not working. Growing through the circumstances that I'm in. So, like as a mum, there's like so much learning and growth on patience and what that means to be patient. I thought that I was a patient person before I got married, and then I got married and I realized I wasn't as patient as I thought. And then I had babies, the first baby, and I was like, oh, there's way more to learn. And now I've got 3, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't even know what patience means anymore. Like it's just.
I said that this morning, but really, all right, when I say that and when she says that, it's different stories. Like my patience jar might be like this. Her patience jar is like this.
Oh, it's not big enough. Yeah. So, and just acknowledging that God is able to work through life. Like God is interested in the life together, not in religious works or Bible reading or anything like that. I think knowing that takes all the pressure and all the expectation that I place on myself, which then becomes judgment because I place that same expectation on somebody else, whether I intend to or not, because I've kind of got this measuring stick, and it either becomes judgment or it becomes hypocrisy because I'm leaning one way for them and one way for myself, or heaping what I have onto them as well. So so it's so freeing not to have that. And it's a journey that I think I still am growing into. Like there are definitely times where I feel unqualified or least qualified to be sharing or teaching or just going through stuff as a leader. And I think
so. We should nail that right now. Like, let's just nail that out of the way. This leader thing. I think this leader thing is way blown out of proportion. And I'm doing this because the way people talk about leaders is just weird, man. It's weird. In Christianity, we've made leadership weird.
Yeah.
So I want to hit something here because, like, for Kirsten, for being a mom, right? I'm running a business. She's running a house with 3 kids. I'm probably way harder than just running a business. It's crazy. Like, to say, oh, you should have a God time. Your God time should look like this. You know, all these expectations, even it's unsaid and it's there. Someone needs to shatter this. For me to say every day you got to have a 1 hour God time or 45-minute God time, like, that is some crazy pressure on top of a crazy life already. So I want to tell you something. God is into the movement, not the moment. We always want to make him a momentary God. Like, oh, did you see my God time? Like 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. He's not a moment God. He's a movement God. He's there in the vacuuming. He's there in the breastfeeding. He's there in the cooking. He's there in the whole thing. He doesn't leave after your God time. It's a God life. There is no God time, right? He's a God in the movement, not a moment. You know, and I know there are great God moments and we all have them and they're awesome and that's great. But the movement is more interesting and important to him. You know, I was saying to Kirsten, like, the whole idea of us having God time, anybody having God time, anybody having Bible time, anybody having worship time, is that at the end of it, you manifest God, you manifest love, you become love. Like, it doesn't matter if you have an 8-hour God time every day and you're not love. And there is no greater love than one that lays his life down for its friends, right? And now you see the journey of a mom, and these are some things a lot of moms don't get, and Kirsten's still getting it, is that at 3 a.m., at 11 p.m., she will get up to feed her baby. Like, that is love manifested. Hear what I'm saying? Some people will read scriptures for 20 years and not manifest that kind of love. You think that a woman who's going to carry a baby for 9 months, lose her own self, lose her body, lose her mind, like lose all this going on, then give birth, go through this traumatic experience, which is fun later, but it's crazy, right? And then have the after effects of seeing her body and what just happened, all for this little being that now wants her 24/7. There is no greater love. It is all about this. Most moms are more ahead of most pastors when it comes to manifesting Jesus. So I'm just going to nail that thing right there and break it and get it out of here. If you're a mom, there is no room for condemnation in you. You can relax because you are manifesting God in your day-to-day life. And so there was no need for me to be like, how much scripture did you read, when I'm watching her live it every day? Like, she has no life. You know, Jesus is like, deny yourself. Lose your life, you will gain your life. Moms, it's almost like by default, they lose their life. So I want to encourage you, moms. This is I'm encouraging my wife. This is like, I have so much respect for you. I have so much respect for my wife because you are manifesting love in a way that people who claim to know scripture, they don't do it like that. And so I just wanted to hit that a little bit.
It's awesome.
Okay.
Preach, honey. That's great.
So it can set you free, man. It can set you free. Like, God's not sitting here with a report card clocking in your hours and clocking out and checking. If all my God stuff does not cause me to be like my Father, if all my God things does not cause me to look and sound and be like my dad. See, Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. If this doesn't cause that, then that's all a waste. That is all a waste, guys. And so I just want to encourage you, and some of you that might feel condemned because you don't have the specific God time, you can step out of that place, okay? Step out of that place. He's a God of movement. Move with him. Forget the moments. Move with him. In the movement, there are many moments. But if you're moment focused, there is only condemnation. If you do the moments, you have pride because you're like, look at me, I'm doing such great God time. Right? If you don't do the God time, you're like, oh my gosh, man, I'm the scum. But when you understand it's movement, it never ends. You know, and I can stay on the subject for a few hours, so let's move on. Another thing I want to tell you, just as we carry on, is that this is 10 years of growing a garden. Like, you are getting an insight into a marriage that was once a seed, and now it's grown into a garden, and it has 3 flowers that are sleeping upstairs, and it has a whole bunch of other flowers that we've specifically gardened. This is not, you know, some people will say, oh, you're so blessed, like God just dropped this thing in you. It doesn't work like that, guys. We have walked through things. There is no drop that. God never deals in finished products. Hear what I'm saying, okay? He's a seed-giving God. He's an ecosystem-creating God. He gives you the seed, and he lets it mature. Before I got married, he said this to me. He said, do you realize that I'm giving you my daughter? And when he said that, it was scary to me. And he showed me a yellow bud that was probably like a rose. And he said to me that whether this bud flourishes into a full blooming flower or not is now partially hinging on you, Joseph. And it freaked me out because I was like, I am now partly responsible for another person's life because we're becoming one. And now whether everything God put in her comes out or not can be ruined by me not seeing who she is and never allowing that to come out. So my wife will say to me, because traditional thinking has taught her that and taught us all that because of how much she might have read and studied, she's not qualified. But I will tell you, because of how much she has died, especially in 5 years, raising 3 children, that she is more than qualified to preach on the true gospel of love. All right. And this should hopefully set a lot of you women free too, who've carried condemnation for no reason. For some of you, it might sound scandalous. I'm not telling you don't read your Bible. I'm not telling you don't have God time. Please get the heart of what I'm saying. Okay, so the pressure of that, and we have that story, like the prayer time, you didn't want to come.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the initial church.
Mm.
So we would have at the church that Joey got saved in, that we started going to, they would have every night, Monday night prayer meeting, and that would be like a like just hardcore tongues and
it was powerful.
It was, yeah. Sorry, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It was just completely different to anything that I had experienced before, and it was totally powerful. And I was still growing in understanding tongues and groaning and travailing and all of that stuff, and it was a really uncomfortable place for me to be for sometimes. So, and Joey never put any pressure on me to attend this Monday night prayer, which I was so thankful for, because each Monday night he would go faithfully and pray and intercede, and it was amazing. Like, I was proud of him, watching him to go and do this, but it was not, I felt like if I were to go, then I would just be frustrated and upset the whole time, because I would feel like I was not really in it for its true intent. I was just there to be seen. So I decided I didn't want to go along and be a part of that. And Joey never once forced or put any pressure on me to say that would be something that I should be doing, or why aren't you coming? Or he just let me have that, walk that journey out and walk that season out. And that was showing true love. That was providing grace where I needed grace and mercy where I needed mercy, and a way of me, of him just being Jesus to me. I think, I don't think Jesus would have pressured his disciples to go to a prayer meeting. So it was having no pressure made all the difference to how much I wanted to then pray in tongues myself, because I didn't feel like it was the be all and end all of, am I making sense?
Hopefully. I mean, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But the reason I think this is important is because, like, in those early days, and I was like, God, you need to teach me how to be a husband. I didn't marry her for who she was supposed to be. I married her for her. I didn't marry her for who I was going to make her and change her into and force her to become. I think sometimes people in marriage really get hung up on who the other person should be instead of who they are in the moment, and she went through that journey, and it was awesome. And that was her journey, just like I had my own journey, so this might be a good time for me to share some of this, because she's always saying of how I've been there for her. But my wife so I'm an external processor. I'm a verbal processor. I'll just say things, talk things out. My wife does things. If there is trouble in a place where my wife exists, she will be one of the first people to go and do something about it. There's no, that's in her blood. It's in her DNA. Maybe you don't even realize it, but it's always been there, right? And so my wife has taught me gazillion things just by me watching her. Like, she doesn't have to preach. Her life is preaching every day. There are so many things when it comes to being soft, sweet, unconditional love, looking at the other side. There are things that I have watched repeatedly, and it's rubbed off on me. Thank God. Like, you're with somebody, you get some good stuff from the other person. It's rubbed off, and some of you might be like, oh, I know you need more. Well, it's getting there, But there was so much from her that I've learned just from the way she lives. And there's another thing, like when you're married, like people are different, man. You're different. Some are external, some are internal, some are verbal, some are not so verbal, And then sometimes you have two verbal people just go at it. And it's so important that you know where each other are at, so you can work together, you can move together, instead of trying to make each other what you think you should be. And so for me, like right from the beginning, I was like, I don't want to have the pastor and pastor's wife thing, and that Kirsten now has to become something just because I'm something. Like, I wanted to go to prayer. If I didn't want to go, I wouldn't go. So if she doesn't want to go, then who the heck am I to make her go? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it starts to become about everything other than God. Like, it's, so that was a great time. Are there anything else you want to talk about quickly before we go into these questions? We've been going for a while.
I think one of the things that I have found freeing, or one of the other things that I found freeing, is to do with seasons. Like, just recognizing that each phase of life is a season, and if you grow through the season, and then the season changes, and so you're not going to be stuck in the same season that you're in now eternally. Like recognizing that, yes, things can be hard and really stretching at the time or in the moment, but the season does have an end. Every season comes to an end, and then a new season is ushered in. And I think that, I guess, particularly because my season at the moment is mum season, so with some of like the behaviors or the things that the girls are going through, knowing that is a season of change, that there will come an end to that season and things will move on. And like the preschool season will move on, and then there'll be the next season, and things will still be, there will still be things that are challenging and hard, but it changes, So I think allowing or having that as a way of looking at things keeps hope, and hope, makes things easier to cope with in the moment. I just
Great.
thought to add that.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add?
No.
I want to quickly touch on our journey, so in our church, and we don't need to go in details, but we went through a bit of drama for about 4 years, all up, and it was rough. And actually, something went down in the church, which wasn't even the rough part. It was what happened after that, and it was rough for me. Firstly, for what's happening for me, but also for watching what was happening to my wife, because, like, my wife's like, you can see, like, we're not faking anything. This is really her, like soft and loving and caring. Like, she thinks every person is awesome. Like that. Just the thought that there could be people that would hurt other people and do things on purpose, like, would not even cross her. Like, we've had different. I don't know how she is like this. It's like a miracle. She went to Dargaville High. I don't get it. Like, But can you talk on that a little bit? Just going through pain, going through drama, going through accusation, going through slander. What was that like for you? Like, especially things that were said about me as a wife, and then, as a family, and then we're having a baby, and, we're having a second baby, and drama's happening again, like 3 to 4 years of this chunk. I would love to know. How do you see all of what happened?
It was really hard. It was really hurtful, some of the stuff that happened, really challenging. But I think more watching, because watching what happened, some of the slander and things that would come against weren't necessarily directed at me, because I'm not really an outward person. So they would come, mostly barbs were fired at you, and that was heartbreaking. Like, it was, I think, not like to not go into detail, but to share what I felt. The whole process was just learning to love, I guess, through persecution, Western church style perhaps, which is different to guns in your face kind of thing. But when you are misunderstood and unable to clarify your point or your opinion or the truth about what actually happened, it's so so hard, and it's so shattering. Like, it just breaks down. I guess for me, I really struggled to understand how this much hurt could happen inside a church, or within the walls of a church where we say that we love Jesus, and yet people are people. People do things differently. People are still human and have shortcomings and shortfalls, and learning to walk through that. And I think that whole season taught me a whole lot about not caring so much about what people think, because at the end of the day, we couldn't change what people thought about us, and we didn't need to. I think that coming through that, at the end of it, we answer to God and God alone. And if people have a problem with us, we can try our best from our end to make it work or make it right. But it's not, it's not, the outcome of that is not what is going to make everything all right. It's that we do everything honorably before God, and that our heart stays pure. And so fighting to keep a pure heart in the midst of hurt and accusation and pain and worry and, just meanness it was the battle. It was the battle. And I think especially when, as a wife, I know my husband's heart. I know exactly what he's thinking and who he is. And then people will say things that are so not true and so opposite of that. That was really, really hard, I think. And I think something like only time could heal it. We had tried to make things right ourselves, and only time would allow things to move through. I'm not really sharing much about what happened.
We don't need to go there, but I put her on the spot just now. Thank you for answering.
You're welcome.
It was good. It was good. A person's shortfall is never the problem, ever. A person's shortcoming is never the problem. But religious ideology, religious training, religious protocol, religious man-made institutionalized stuff, that's where more people get hurt. Like, hardly anyone really gets hurt when somebody makes a mistake. Like, it could be the leader of leaders making a mistake. That's usually never the problem. The problem happens after that, when religious ideologies try and take over. And we faced a lot of that. And I believe that's part of the making of people, like Jesus faced it. You're going to face it. We faced it. We'll probably still face it. But I just wanted a wife's perspective. Another crazy thing about this was in 2017, when really the change started coming, and I hit breaking point. I was lying in bed. I got upstairs, and I remember going to bed. Kirsten was asleep. Everyone's asleep. And I was so broken. I was going to break down crying, and I was trying not to cry because I didn't want her to wake up. And she just wakes up randomly, puts her hand on me, and is like, "Are you okay, honey?" And I was like, what the heck? I didn't even have time to figure out how the heck she did that, because she was so fast asleep that I just broke down crying, and I was ready to move to Dargaville. If you know me, that's as low as I get. Not now. Now I love Dargaville, but I was like, I'm done. I don't want to help anybody. Let's get out of here. We're done with doing any church thing, ministry thing. And that's why, I'm not a fan of religion, and I'm not a fan of institutionalized religion. And I thank God that He's released me as a son to now no longer need to bow to that, ever. Amen. So now we get to do this, and we're in an exciting journey right now, which is awesome. Can you talk a little bit about what you believe God's doing now with Corona and some of your thoughts?
Sure. I think other people have said it, and I will, I guess, echo that as well. But I feel like this it's a time of reset and rest and connecting, reconnecting with God and building our trust and our faith, and it's kind of a good time to just assess. For me, I felt assess, what do I really believe about where God is in the world at the moment, and in terms of where we don't need to know necessarily, but where do we fall in terms of end times theology? Like, is this the end of the world? And what would change if it was? Should I be doing something differently? And why am I not doing that already? How can I bring that into my life now, where I'm living as God would have me live day to day, as though it is the end of the world? If Jesus was to come tomorrow, I want it to be found a pure and blameless bride, like spotless in his eyes, that he would come and I would be joyfully received. So what am I doing now that's not that? Then I should work on that. So I think
No, what's it like being at home with your kids all the time and we can't take them to a playground?
I think we are really blessed with girls who have adapted very well. But there are certainly days of cabin fever, and I'm grateful for decks on our house. We can go outside in the veranda, and it must be really hard for families who don't have access to as much outdoors as we do, or who have more kids or different ages of kids all stuck inside together. I think we are pretty blessed with our situation at the moment. It has been hard, it has been challenging, and I miss the freedom of being able to go where we want to, when we want to, and take them to run around and use some of their energy and that kind of stuff. But I think like my perspective, and probably maybe perhaps more optimistic than it ought to be, is that we, once we get through this season, things will change again, and we'll be back to doing that, hopefully. And so making the most of this time where for me, I'm trying to be intentional about what I'm doing with them each day. So we're at home, we have to be at home. Let me put away my phone and be intentional about how I can connect with each one of them in the way that they need. And so what does that look like? What does love look like to a 5-year-old, and what does love look like to a 2.5-year-old? And what activities can we do that would bring joy, and that kind of stuff. So it's just like it's mundane, but it's just that's my go at the moment.
Boom. Okay, we're just going to quickly go through these questions because we've been going for a while now, and there's still a few people on here, so we're not too boring. Let's hit these questions. So Kirsten, question number 1. Let's go all the way up here. Was it difficult integrating into different culture? We'll just nail these questions quickly. If you have any questions for you can throw them, man. Was it difficult integrating?
No, it wasn't. Although the first time I went to Joey's house was for Christmas dinner before we got married, and it took me about 3 hours to decide what to wear, because I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have any Indian friends apart from Joey, and am I allowed to wear pants, or do we have to wear a skirt? And so just, and then I'm like, and then
Wow.
Yeah. And then I was late. I was really late. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so late. That's so disrespectful. And thankfully, that's okay. Actually, it's all right to be late. So.
Did you think we had a house, or do you think you were going to be welcomed by a cow and an elephant in the corner? Or?
No, I didn't want to be disrespectful without knowing it.
All right, next question. Did she learn to cook Indian food? I'm going to answer this question because before we got married,
my mum brought me an Indian recipe book for our engagement.
So Kirsten was going to make dinner, and I was going to have this Indian dinner. And I came to the house, and there's just smoke everywhere. I think the smoke alarm had gone. It was like chaos, and she was trying to cook. Poor thing, she worked so hard to cook this food, and it went crazy. Did it get burnt?
Yeah.
But I ate it. I'm a good man.
Yeah, he did. He's really good.
But it was actually, not bad.
So now we had butter chicken for dinner tonight, and I made it from a packet. It was the easiest bit of
Yeah.
checking out.
Well, it was really nice. It was good. Steve, we actually shared that whole story at the beginning, bro, how we met. So that question has been answered, my friend. Was she well received into your family, or was I well received in your family?
Yeah. Yep. Loved from the start, I think.
I actually love Kirsten's parents. So Neil and Bev, if you're watching, I love you. You're like my own parents. And I'm super blessed. Like, I can't tell you how God set this thing up. And I want to encourage you, like those of you that are waiting for your person, embrace your passion, embrace your purpose, embrace your life, embrace your mission, and you will find this person on the path. A lot of people leave their path to go find the person. But by doing that, sometimes you'll relinquish your purpose, Even your person has a purpose. Like Kirsten totally, like us coming together has accelerated both our callings. It has not taken away from one or the other. And that's because even before she met me, she was going somewhere. And before I met her, I was going somewhere, totally wrong direction, but I was going super fast. And then her prayers turned me around, right? And we came together. But it's like you want to, I think too many people get hung up on, when is it going to happen? When is my guy going to come? And maybe I'd love to do a course on that, and set people free from that. But from not free like, you have a demon or something. Set you free from worrying about it, But yeah, so I love her parents, her family. That's what I'm trying to say. And yeah, I was well received. And she was well received into mine. My mom loved her like her own daughter.
Yeah.
And
it was like Joey's family's, they're amazing. They've just been so welcoming. And one of the things that I really helps me is that whenever if there's something I don't understand, or because we've been to India twice since we got married, and like if there's cultural things where I'm unsure or anything like that, they're so helpful and keen and just eager to take the time and share, and like Joy's mum and dad and sisters, they're just so sweet. And so I never felt anything but love. I never felt out of place or worried about it or anything. I feel very blessed to have, them as family too.
Yeah, I was like, man, my sisters love her better than they love me. Has Joseph's influence changed your mindset towards life and spiritual life?
Yeah. Yep. I have been well led by my hubby. And so we have many, many chats about many, many things. And I'm super, super grateful for his heart and the way that he disciples me and helps me to grow and love Jesus more. Thanks, babe.
I want to speak on the subject. I want to speak on every subject, but this is an important one because in the first few years of marriage, there had to just be a death that happened to me. And the Bible says that husbands should die for their wives. It never says the wife should die for the husband. And so a lot of husbands demand submission without death. When you truly die for your wife and lay your life down for her, submission is a byproduct. Like at no point will she ever have to hear from my mouth that she needs to submit to me if I'm living a dead life unto her, which she knows in all things I'm considering her. My love will compel submission. And this is the model that Jesus showed us. Jesus came and he died. He just died for you. He died for people that aren't even going to receive him. He died for people that don't submit to him. But he died because he's like, first comes the death, first comes the laying down of life, and submission is a response to death. And so I want to say that because a lot of people, when they hear a woman talk about, submission, they're like, whoa, there goes that Christian thing. No, that's not submission. That's your religious ideology. True submission is amazingly beautiful. I am completely submitted to Jesus because he died for me. His love compels my submission. I don't have to. I choose to. That's where the power lies, And so sometimes this word submission can get really tainted, even in leadership in churches and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to hit that subject, okay? You lay down, submission happens, and it's fun, not like all this other stuff, like not religious weirdness. Would you agree?
Totally, yeah.
Hey, Coach. Hey, Kirsten. My question is, how did you know Coach was your rock of honey? So she obviously thinks I'm also your rock of honey.
Yeah.
How did you know?
I think that's for you.
My question is, how did you know Coach was your rock of? No, how did you know I was?
Like what made me fall in love with you? How did you know?
How did you know I was the guy for you?
Because I saw your life and I saw your heart and I loved it. And do you know, one time Joe was shared this story that he took his mum to Smith and Co. in Auckland, and he wanted to bless her, and so he took her in, and he's like, "You can buy whatever you want, Mum." And I'm like, that's so honoring and so respectful, and if he can treat his mum like that, he's a good man.
Right, interesting. I'm learning some things. But I wasn't always like that, right? Like I was messed up. I was so selfish. It was always about me. So after I got saved, Jesus started to deal with my greed and my poverty mindset, because Smith and Co. is not cheap. And so I dealt with that. Awesome. How did you prepare yourself for a relationship?
Well, that's a big question.
It is. But just like quick fire.
By trying to keep pure in my heart and guarding my thoughts. I guess would be quick fire.
What wisdom would you share with your daughters about relationships in the future? Ooh. Husband's got a shotgun.
I would just want to maintain an open relationship so they can feel free to come and talk about whatever, whenever, anytime. And I would also encourage them in purity and what that looks like. And, I think purity is really important.
What steps have you taken in order to protect your relationship? Because I'm a coach and I coach all these women, and women talk to me and message me and stuff. She's saying, real talk, I would get jealous if my partner was talking to women and stuff like that. How do you stop friction from being caused, and how do you stop wolves in sheep's clothing from coming around?
Well, if I wanted to look at any of Joey's stuff, I can. He's said that I'm welcome to look at any messages or anything so I don't feel shut out from anything. I don't feel suspicious or anything. I just feel like I trust him completely. And if stuff comes up, or if there's, and he asks my opinion and he values my opinion, so I feel heard and understood. And if there was to be anything that I was worried about, I just talk to him about it.
Yeah, I think it goes two way. Like, I actually make her read my messages. I make her read some things where I'm like, what does this sound like? Mm-hmm. How do you see this? How do you see this? Right? So all our Fuse Life group and all our coaching clients and stuff, Kirsten's seeing you all. She's scanning you all. So we're good. And that's my prayer. And that is something I will never take for granted. And I don't ever want it to become a back burner thing. So we are constantly in communication about that. Mm-hmm. We don't obsess about it, but we're very wary. Yeah, vigilant, very wary about it. Someone asked a question over here. How do you lay down your life to her in practice? So Shelley, like that's like the beginning of our marriage was like, well, she's not going to come to prayer. So some other people might think, well, your youth pastor, she should be at prayer. They might think that, but I'm like, I don't care. And that's the beginning of the laying down of that. I'm laying my life down for you in I don't want you to try and be anything except for you. Right. And so laying down, it looks so different for everybody. That's why your marriage is so different to our marriage, Mm-hmm. And laying down looks like small things at different times. And like sometimes, we end up having conversations that could be total wrong timing, but it's actually bang on right timing, right? Like I'm about to leave somewhere and I have to say, no to some meetings or no to different things and shut business to the side so we can have this deep conversation, because that is the moment. Laying down your life is you put the other person first in everything you do, right? So I'm considering how things are going to affect her in all my decisions, in my day planning, in my week planning. I'm considering all of that. So yeah, it could look that itself is a 5-day challenge right there. Like submission done the right way. It would be a great course. Kirsten, what are your strengths that are coach's weaknesses? She probably won't say. What are you going to say? Will you share a strength of yours, please?
I like to.
Come on, you can say it.
We have a hot water cupboard that has shelves in it. There's 3 shelves. Joey's has all his clothes live on the top shelf, and they get very full very frequently because I like to do laundry, because I'm a clean freak with laundry like that. And And he would say that one of his weaknesses is that he doesn't take his clothes upstairs as often as perhaps he should. And
Yeah, but you're not answering their question. They want to know your strengths.
I take my clothes upstairs.
No, I'm going to tell you her strengths. Like, where my weakness is at. Kirsten is very good at considering the other side of the coin, right? Which, for me, like, I'm an action guy. She's totally not an action person. And so we get to rub off on each other there and now it's like, I go to her all the time because I know there is wisdom there, you know? Her strengths are organization, administration, like administering a family's needs, organizing things. Like, she is crazy organized. You know, and I am not at all, like, in terms of admin. I'm organized with things.
Yeah, you're an action organizer.
Yeah, like, it's different. So my clothes, okay, I have to tell the story now. You brought it up. When I lived with my parents, right, and I do my washing, I had clothes for 2 weeks. So I would use my week A clothes, right? Let's call it like that, week A clothes. And then I would put them into wash. It would take my time for a week while I'm wearing my week B clothes, okay? That's how it works. So after I got married, and like Kirsten's just like, hey, I'll do the washing.
I love doing laundry.
You know? And she's like, Kirsten always said to me she was born in the wrong era. Like, she was like, she should be born in 1950s or something, right? Like,
yeah.
Or earlier. So she loves all that stuff. So suddenly my clothes were getting washed like all the time.
Too fast.
And I didn't have time for my week B clothes. Like, I was like, what happens to my week B clothes? Like, and so now I got all these week B clothes upstairs, and my week A clothes are in the wardrobe, in the laundry downstairs. They keep getting washed. And so I'm like, you know, yeah. So that's the story. I think I should work on some of that. But
it doesn't actually bother me.
Kirsten, her strength is unconditional love. I think that's her strength, even though she might disagree. I've seen it in action, you know, and yeah, there's so many things we can go down.
But that's not one of your weaknesses.
Yeah, but still your strength. Joanna Campbell, what is rock with honey? I explained that before. Hopefully you heard that one. What are both your love languages? This could be another sermon right here. What are both your love languages? And if they're different, how do you adjust to each other?
Do you want to answer?
We did talk about love languages because I saw this question in another forum. What's
like, I think love languages are a good way of categorizing perhaps personality or likes and dislikes, and they can be helpful. Totally, people use them and find them, you know. So thinking about a different way of
I'm just reading the comments. I'm like, yeah, sorry, go.
So probably I would say that your love language would be quality time and touch, probably. Would you agree?
Yeah,
or words of affirmation?
I don't know. I don't like playing this game in many ways because it defeats the purpose, you know? Like, when I think of love languages, I'm like, oh, that's designed for me to understand somebody else better. But most people run around knowing their own love languages. And the minute the love language is about my love language, it's not even love anymore, because love doesn't seek its own. Just think about this for a second. The minute I make love languages about my love language, I just stepped out of love. It's just a language. It's not love, because love doesn't seek its own. So if anything, this love language theory is like great to give you a small like bit of understanding of someone else, right? But it can easily be twisted and made about, like, you know. And so I don't, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't play that game that much. So I do understand it, and words of affirmation, touch, and quality time. I like them all, you know. And I would say Kirsten loves quality time. I would say Kirsten values quality time and touch and words of affirmation. I don't know. We're like similar. Like, how do you? I don't know. You know, so I'm like, I think some of these things get a bit weird, man. Like, even personality tests. You know, people do the personality tests, like Strength Finders, and they do all these tests, and they're like, oh, I'm ENFJ. Like, I'm personality type 8, you know, like, no, like, you're Christ. Like, you know, if I do the test, it should be to understand her, not to tell you who I am. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even that is just empathy, but I'm still drawing on the Christ in her. Christ in her is the hope of glory, not ENFJ8, personality type 8, like affirmation or touch. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes we can. Anyway, sorry.
Skip.
How do we schedule time apart and give each other space? It's hard working.
Yeah. Again, this is a season thing. So for now, it's maybe less often for time apart. When actually before COVID, Joe would take the girls and go and visit his family because they live, still in Auckland, every week, and that would give me some time to get some life admin stuff done or whatever I wanted to do for a couple of hours.
I would leave and say, Kirsten, you got more than half the day. Enjoy, right? And I'll go, and she will do admin work and computer taxes, because she apparently enjoys that.
And it needs to be done, and I do enjoy it. So yeah.
So yeah, Jeremiah, we do it. It's work. You got to adapt, right? You got to adapt. Sometimes in the moment, you got to be like, okay, I think it's probably good you have some time. Enjoy yourself. I'll be with the kids.
And having Joey at home as well, like he can see when I'm like, and so then he's like, okay, let me just step in and take the girls now. So that's really nice.
And that was a big thing that we started working on, is Kirsten doesn't like to ask for help because she's like, Joseph, you have so much on your plate already. Like, I don't want to tell you about this. And we have to really talk through that, right? Because, I do care and I want to be there. But like many men would agree with me, we don't read minds like that, So.
And I didn't expect you to read my mind. I just expected me to be more capable than I really was. So.
This could be like a crazy series on marriage, what we're talking about. But next question, how do you deal with conflict in public places?
I don't really think that's something we've had to deal with, is it? Conflict in public places?
We don't have conflict in public places.
We don't really have much conflict. We have.
Yeah, we don't. I think some people, they don't believe that. But we don't. Like, we have discussion, we have disagreement, we have conversation. But we never really have conflict as such. We don't need to, if there's open communication, then there's no room for conflict. Conflict, this is again getting deep, but some of the times where there's blow-ups that happen in relationships is because the seeds have been festering for so long. And when we become really good at plucking seeds, then we don't have to chop down trees. When you have to chop down trees, it takes work and it's painful and it's irritating. But when you become a seed plucker, we're good. And I think we've been practicing being seed pluckers. How do you balance spending time with each other's families after marriage?
Good question. Well, Joey's side of the family is in Auckland and my side is further up north. We, like for occasions, like birthdays and anniversaries and Mother's Day and Easter and all that sort of stuff, we catch up. I don't know, it doesn't seem like a struggle really. It just kind of happens. We try and be intentional about seeing both sides and
I think so Kirsten's parents live like 3 hours away from here, so it's not like we can go there every day, So sometimes when we can, we go there for the weekend and we stay there for 3 or 4 days and it's awesome. But the thing here is like we both had to draw lines in the sand, and our families have been awesome enough to let us draw these lines in the sand where we're like, look, we have a family that's separate to our family. And that's very important, like especially cultures, like Indian culture is a collectivist culture, probably like Pacific Island culture. It's like all up in your business culture, uncles, aunties, their cousins know what's happening in your life and you never told anybody, but somehow they know, but then you got European culture is a lot more individualistic. It's a lot more, look at my fence, like this is my fence, this is my house, it's your house, And so the cultures, like both our families were really awesome to embrace what we were going through. Yeah, the other side. And so it's never been a problem. And we've been blessed like that. We make sure we spend time, but we can't just cater to other people's demands, So the thing I would say there is that we both were in such agreement that if one of the families was angry with us because we weren't going to go spend time, we were okay. And I think that's the most important thing that couples should focus on is like, hey, if the mother's side, like if the wife's side, if they're not happy because you're not going, but you're okay as a unit, then you're good. You both will deal with that. The problem happens when they go, wow, it's your mom, like you must deal with that. And now suddenly that's causing something that is not healthy. So we make sure that we're always in this mode, and then whatever happens, we go together. If there's winds and waves, we're going together. The minute this gets threatened, that's when problems happen. So you want to make sure that you work at keeping this, whatever happens, and then it always works out,
That was awesome.
That was the last question there. So I think we're done. Do you guys have lots of support, hands-on support, help? How do you answer that?
Yeah, like Joy's family, they will come if we need help or support. They're there, and we can go there, or they can come here. They're always more than happy to help, which is really nice, really lovely. And Mum comes down sometimes as well if we need something, or she comes down to visit the girls mostly. It's supportive too. So I feel like if we want support, we've got an amazing group of family, friends that are family, who we feel really supported by too. So much. We feel really surrounded by help if we need it. And I think that's, I'm like when we want it, it's totally there. If we don't, that's good too. It's not forced on us at all. We're really blessed.
How old are you guys? I am 34.
Which makes me 33.
And Kirsten's 33. So I got married when I was 25. And she was 24. Yeah, there you go. We answered that question. Boom. I think we've come to the end. Coming to the end? We've come to the end.
Oh my goodness, did you see the time? It's like 10:15.
Yeah, we started at 8:30. I know we've been going for a while. So Kirsten, whenever I interview somebody, we always end with, and this wasn't really an interview, right? But there'll be more of this, hopefully. I ask people for a wisdom bomb or a one-liner. Yeah, sorry, I didn't prep her at all. Like, we're just in this thing, like, boom. So what is some wisdom, a quote or a scripture or some kind of wisdom you want to leave everybody with as we say goodnight?
That is a really good question. I think just recognizing, that God is God through it all, no matter what. And he is always there and available and loving and willing and wanting to be a part of everything that we're going through. And we can always approach him. He's not far, he's not distant. He's right beside whenever we need it. And that would be my first thought. My second thought would be guard your heart. Do the work in your heart. Plant the seeds. Watch your thoughts. Mind your thoughts. Deal with things that are not healthy. Stay pure. Philippians 4. That's probably my favorite scripture.
Wow. Well, there you go, guys. This was my 50th episode.
What an honor. What a privilege to be your 50th episode. Thanks, honey.
We didn't plan it.
Thanks for dealing with us.
Dealing with us. Thanks, guys. Boom, man. There you go. 50 episodes. We did it. I didn't know what was happening when we began this thing. June 1st week, we began this podcast. Last year. So it hasn't even been a year. We are a few months short of a year, and we've hit 50. I believe this is God's podcast, so it's going to go crazy. And I want to thank you guys for walking with us, supporting us. Jubilee, man. We hit the Jubilee. And those of you that are watching for the first time or whatever, we have a group called Fuse Life. You want to be a part of this group because it is building. God is doing something there. You can join it. Kaylin, if you can put the link. Yes, Dot, we're live, but we are ending. If you can put that link, Kaylin, so people can join this group and maybe pin that comment or put that link in the caption. That would be great. Join our group, our family. Something's happening, like an online ecclesia. And thank you guys. Thank you for being part of this. I know there's more coming because I feel like Kirsten carries so much. She has no idea. And now season's coming where she might start to release this. So this has been awesome. You guys are awesome. We don't even understand why people would sit and watch us.
It's been fun. Thanks for hanging out.
And yeah, we love you. And take care. Until next time. Next week, we got 3 episodes coming. So till then, love you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Talk soon.
Faith and patience. Faith and patience. Patience means allow it to happen. Stay the same. Stay persistent. Keep going. Faith, know that it can happen at any moment. Get excited because it can happen at any moment. You were so close. Don't quit now. Keep pushing. You got this.